Hey y'all, this is Dan Vis over at Fast Missions, and today I want to talk with you about the new training tracks we just recently uploaded to Fast. I'm super excited about how these turned out, and I'm looking forward to sharing a bit of the story behind them in today's video. So stay tuned. This past week I posted a memo entitled Persistence Pays, and I'll tell you the reason that memo stood out to me. And it's simply this: to be successful in some things, you just have to stick with it for a while. Take Bible memorization, for example, right? That's one of the illustrations I gave in the memo. If you get motivated, you go all out, you memorize a few dozen verses, but then you lose steam down the way a little bit, it doesn't really amount to that much in the long run, right? I mean, if your review program comes crashing down, those few verses you learned, they're going to start to slip away. And before long, your memorization experience is just going to be a distant blip on the radar of your life, so to speak. And there won't really be that much impact. But if you stick with it over time, right, even just a couple verses a week, it begins to add up. Soon you have hundreds or even thousands of verses bouncing around in your head. You start making connections between verses you might never have seen otherwise. Those verses start to impact all kinds of decision making in your life. And they just keep getting sweeter and sweeter the more you meditate on them. So, I mean, the impact can really be profound. And the longer you stick with it, the more those benefits start to compound. It all starts to really accelerate. So in other words, it's like memorization without persistence really doesn't accomplish all that much. But memorization with persistence leads to an ever-increasing and ever-expanding positive blessing in your life. It really all hinges on persistence. So here's why the subject of persistence came to mind. This past week, I uploaded a really massive upgrade to our training tracks. In many ways, it's the result of nearly 30 years of intense research and discipleship and church training. And I couldn't be more excited about being able to get this done. I still remember starting out all those years ago. We just had one set of lessons back then, basic training. I was back in the early 90s, and precursors to those lessons go back even further. It was just 9 simple lessons. They were powerful and they changed lives, but I knew it wasn't enough, that we still had more to do. Pretty soon we zoomed in on how the Bible outlines a 3-step process in discipleship that involves taking in the word, living it out, passing it on, and that became really foundational to our ministry. So we added 2 more courses: the survival kit to focus specifically on memorization, and then a 3rd program we initially called the multiplication pack that focused more on outreach. And that was another huge step forward. Then we realized we needed better materials to train those that were leading fast teams. So we put together a really important leader's manual. And we put together a small booklet called the Explosion Formula to kind of share our vision for multiplication. And all those resources combined, we put them together. That became our discipleship pack. And it literally went around the world. The Lord opened doors for us to work with a conference here in the U.S., actually, to put together a 12-month training curriculum for Sabbath school. And that required us to develop even more materials, and ended up writing a couple books. Some of you may remember For Such a Time, right? And then later we came out with the Moral Machinery. We also kept developing and refining our existing lessons. Some went through numerous revisions. And we just kept adding new lessons, new materials, trying new things. All during that time, I was working at different evangelistic schools, missionary training programs, and developing curriculum for those environments, which meant more resources, more materials, and gaining more insights into the discipleship process. Later, I worked as a pastor for 7 years over in the Chicagoland area, and that was a wonderful experience. We had a great time together as a church, but that involved developing more materials still and more resources, and I learned all kinds of lessons that I simply couldn't have learned any other way. It was really an awesome time. At some point, we started an online school and began offering digital classes. We tried all kinds of different formats to create the best educational experience we could until we finally hit on a system that really worked for us. Some of you may remember our very first breakout memory challenge, right? And then after that, we did Revive and had over 1,200 people participate. Wow. And since then, we've done many more classes. We've tried many more experiences. We've just been constantly learning and growing. I mean, we're talking years of trial and error, endless updates and tweaks, a constant, determined pursuit to make every single resource the very best it could be. It was a huge amount of work. All those Monday memos, our Bible boost, memory engine, and all our other discipleship tools, all kinds of stuff. I mean, we even wrote the software for our online school, the platform, so we could do things that we just couldn't do on any other platform at the time. And that went through something like 200 releases since its launch back in 2008. I mean, that averages out to like more than one update a month for 13 years. Seriously. In 2017, we felt impressed to invest a few years in pursuing FAST full time, and we moved to our current home here in the tiny little town of Cather, North Dakota. And since then, we've been even more busy, right? Developing content, revising existing materials, tinkering with new teaching methods, new approaches, new software, putting things together in new ways. In fact, I think it was just about a year or two ago that we even came up with the idea of organizing all that information into training tracks. And then that went through a couple of revisions, right? I mean, you just have to keep working at things. It never comes out perfect the first time. It just doesn't all come out at once. If you're going to accomplish anything significant for God, you really have to work at it. You just have to give it some time. Which brings me back to our most recent update, right? We thought through our entire curriculum, fine-tuned and tweaked every little detail, and it just seemed to all come together super nice. Like there was a perfect spot for pretty much every little bit of training we had, and we had something for every key bit of training we needed. I mean, honestly, it looked like this whole thing was planned out from the beginning, like we had some kind of brilliant, grand master plan way back on day one. But I promise you, we didn't. We didn't really know what we were doing. We just worked at it little by little, step by step. And every one of those steps brought us just that little bit closer to where we are today, to where now we have a really powerful and a comprehensive curriculum for making disciples. It all fits. It's all interconnected. It all links together like a big giant mosaic. And we just happen to have every piece we needed to complete that picture. That's the raw potential of persistence, of really sticking with something for a while. I mean, look, it wasn't always easy. We took a lot of wrong turns. We had to back up and try some things more, 2 or 3 times, but we stayed fixed on the goal of creating the training sources that we needed to accomplish our mission, which was to bring cutting-edge Bible-centered tools and training to the world. For 30 years now, really, we've stayed intentional on pretty much one thing: trying to find a way to finish the work through the process of spiritual multiplication. That's what we're all about. Are we finished? Have we arrived or something? No, of course not. And no plans of stopping anytime soon. Even since last week, even after that big upgrade, right? I've been polishing up more classes, trying to streamline things so there's less duplication of content, touching up formatting, typos, spelling, little bugs on our site. And I've got a long list of little specific training pieces we that are missing that we need to improve, including some new short courses, hopefully coming out this year, and even maybe 1 or 2 study guide courses I've been wanting to write for a really long time. I mean, there's always going to be work to do. But at the same time, there's a feeling, a real feeling of accomplishment. To be able to work towards something for so many years and then to see it finally start to come together, that's really pretty cool. And that's why this memo really spoke to me. Persistence pays. So what about you? If God's put some vision on your heart, some project, it may not take 30 years, maybe just a year or two, or maybe 5 or 10, but regardless, if it's anything big, it's going to take some time and it's going to take some persistence, right? So I just want to challenge you to make a commitment, to determine to start working away at it and to stick with it. Even if you don't have the whole thing mapped out yet, right? Just tackle whatever piece lies closest at hand and start knocking things out one at a time. Just keep plugging along. And you're going to be in for an amazing journey. That's just how God leads. He leads one step at a time. And he'll keep leading you as long as you stay on track. Seriously, that's my thought for today. Persistence really does pay. If God has given you a vision to do something for him, well, then stick with it. Find a way, persevere, be persistent, right? And God's going to bless. I'll post a link to this week's memo down in the description, as well as a link to our new training tracks, the ones I'm so excited about. Just make sure you're logged in so you can see exactly what I'm talking about. And as you scan over all that content, all those modules, right, just remember, it really is the result of 30 years of hard work. It's a real example of the potential of persistence, the power of sticking with something over time. I want to give just a quick shout out to our awesome community over at Fast Missions. You guys are amazing, and I thank the Lord for you every day. If you're not yet a part of our community, come on over and create an account, fastmissions.com. It's always free to join, and there's always some free class you can take. Right now, at least through the end of January, we've got a great featured class called For Such a Time, and you absolutely don't want to miss it. It's all about the importance of Bible memorization in terms of end-time prophecy. It's really fascinating stuff. You don't want to miss it. In closing, thanks again for watching the video. If you made it to the end, please hit that subscribe button and turn on the notifications bell. I plan on posting new videos every week, and I've got some important stuff planned. I'm looking forward to it. And anything you can do to help get that algorithm going here at YouTube, well, that really means a lot to me. So until next time, let's stick with it. Whatever God is calling us to do, let's remember that persistence really pays. And let's keep climbing higher.